The giant ship came out of nowhere. One moment, the space around Zephyr Prime was empty. The next moment, a massive vessel appeared with a flash of light that lit up every sensor on the patrol station. Commander Zixel stared at his screen. The ship was huge, bigger than 3 Zephyrian cruisers put together. But it looked wrong. The hull was covered in scars and patches. Metal plates were welded over holes. Strange devices stuck out from the sides like ugly growths. "Sir, I'm getting readings," said his scanner operator. "The ship is old, very old." "How old?" Zixel asked. "According to the metal decay patterns, 700 years, sir." Zixel's 4 eyes widened. Nothing survived that long in space. Nothing. The longest any ship had ever lasted was 200 years, and that was with constant repairs and upgrades. It must be a derelict, he decided. Prepare a salvage team. But before he could give more orders, his communication officer jumped up. "Sir, we're getting a signal." The voice that came through the speakers was rough and tired, speaking broken galactic standard with a strange accent. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth ship Endurance. We request asylum and aid." "Repeat, this is Captain Vasquez requesting permission to enter your space." The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at the speakers. A living crew. On a 700-year-old ship. "Captain," Zixel said carefully, "did you say 700 years? A pause. Then a laugh, tired but real. "More or less, Commander. We've been traveling for a long time. Our navigation systems show we left Earth in 2387. What year is it now?" Zixel's hand shook as he checked his calendar. "It's 3089, Captain." Another pause. Longer this time. 702 years, the human voice said quietly. "We made good time." The Zephyrian crew looked at each other. How was this possible? How could any ship survive that long? How could any crew still be alive? "Captain Vasquez," Zixel said, "we will escort you to Kepler Station. But I must warn you, your ship will need to be inspected." "Understood, Commander. We're grateful for your help. The Endurance is, well, she's been better days. But she got us here." As the patrol ships moved to escort the ancient vessel, Zixel sent an emergency message across the galaxy. The humans had finally arrived. The mythical species that had left their homeworld centuries ago was real. And somehow, impossibly, they had survived a journey that should have killed them all. The Endurance moved slowly toward Kepler Station, its engines humming with a sound that no Zephyrian had ever heard before. Deep, steady, and strong. Like a heartbeat that had been beating for 7 centuries and refused to stop. On every alien ship and station, the same question was being asked. How were they still alive? 3 days later, Kepler Station buzzed with excitement. Aliens from dozens of worlds had come to see the humans. The great docking bay was packed with creatures of all shapes and sizes, all waiting to meet the species they had heard stories about for centuries. Ambassador Thexani of the Hegemony stood at the front of the crowd. He was tall and proud, with silver skin that gleamed under the station lights. His people ruled half the galaxy. He expected to be impressed by human technology. The Endurance docked with a loud clang that made everyone jump. The ship's airlock opened with a hiss of steam. Captain Elena Vasquez stepped out first. She was small compared to most aliens, with dark hair and tired eyes. Behind her came Dr. Marcus Webb, an older man with grease on his hands and tools hanging from his belt. "Welcome to galactic civilization," Thexani said in his deep voice. "We have heard much about humanity." Captain Vasquez nodded politely. "Thank you for welcoming us. We're grateful to finally meet our galactic neighbors." "Indeed," Thexani said. "We are curious about your vessel. Perhaps you could show us around." The tour began badly and got worse. As they walked through the ship's corridors, the aliens started to whisper and laugh. The walls were made of simple metal, not the energy fields other ships used. The lights were basic bulbs, not plasma arrays. Everything looked old and rough. "Are these switches?" asked a crystalline engineer, pointing at the wall controls. "Physical switches. How primitive." Dr. Webb touched one of the switches gently. "They work," he said quietly. In the engine room, the aliens stared at the fusion reactors. They were huge, simple machines with pipes and valves everywhere. "These are ancient designs," laughed a hegemony scientist. "We stopped using such crude reactors 300 years ago. Our ships use quantum cores now." "How do you maintain these old machines?" asked another alien. "With wrenches," Dr. Webb said simply. "And spare parts we make ourselves." The aliens laughed louder. They took pictures to show their friends. "Look at the funny humans with their primitive tools." In the hydroponics bay, they found plants growing in dirt instead of nutrient baths. The food storage was just frozen meat and vegetables, not the protein cubes other species used. "This is how we lived thousands of years ago," an alien whispered to his friend. How embarrassing for them. Captain Vasquez kept her face calm, but her hands were tight fists. Dr. Webb just kept explaining how everything worked, his voice getting quieter with each question. "Don't worry," Thexani said at the end of the tour. "We can help you upgrade all this primitive equipment. You'll have proper technology soon." "Thank you," Captain Vasquez said politely. But behind her tired eyes, something hard was growing. These aliens had no idea what they were really looking at. Historian Vorthak couldn't sleep. Something about the human ship bothered him. He sat in his dark office, staring at data files on his computer screen. Numbers that didn't make sense. Dates that seemed wrong. Vorthak was old, even by his people's standards. He had 4 hearts and 6 arms, and he had been studying galactic history for over 200 years. He knew the limits of technology. He knew what was possible and what wasn't. The humans said their ship was built 700 years ago, but that was impossible. Ships didn't last that long. They couldn't. He pulled up the galactic records. The longest any ship had ever operated was the hegemony battleship * Glory of Stars *. It lasted 198 years before its systems failed completely. The ship had to be scrapped. Most ships lasted much less. Saphirian vessels needed major rebuilds every 150 years. Crystalline ships broke down after 120 years. Even the advanced quantum collective couldn't keep their ships running for more than 180 years. But the humans claimed 700 years of continuous operation. Impossible. Vorthak accessed the human ship's database. The security was primitive, just passwords and basic encryption. He broke through it easily. What he found made his 4 hearts stop beating for a moment. The build date was right there in the ship's core memory, quantum encrypted and impossible to fake. The *Endurance* had been constructed in Earth year 2387. That was exactly 702 years ago. "No," he whispered to himself. "This can't be right." He checked the ship's maintenance logs, page after page of repairs, upgrades, and replacements. But the basic structure, the core systems, they were all original, all 700 years old. His hands shaking, Vorthak called up more records. The ship's fusion reactors showed continuous operation for 7 centuries. The life support systems had been running nonstop for the entire journey. The engines had never been fully shut down. He stood up so fast his chair fell over. This was bigger than first contact. This was proof that everything the galaxy thought it knew about technology was wrong. Vorthak sent an emergency message to the Science Council. Within an hour, the station's best scientists were crowding into his office. He showed them the data. One by one, their faces went pale. "Run the analysis again," demanded Chief Scientist Melthera. They ran it 5 more times. The answer was always the same. The human ship had been operating continuously for 702 years. "But how is this possible?" asked Dr. Zethera, the crystalline engineer who had laughed at the human technology just hours before. "I don't know," Vorthak admitted. "According to everything we know about physics and engineering, That ship should have been dead scrap metal centuries ago. The room fell silent. Outside, aliens were still laughing about the primitive human technology. They had no idea they were looking at the greatest engineering achievement in galactic history. "We need to study that ship," Melthera said quietly. "We need to understand how they did it. Because if the humans could build technology that lasted 700 years, what else could they do?" The next morning, a team of the galaxy's best engineers boarded the Endurance *. Chief Engineer Zethera led the group. She was a crystalline, tall and sharp like living glass. Yesterday she had laughed at human technology. Today she came to learn. Dr. Webb met them at the airlock. He looked tired but patient. "Welcome back," he said. "What would you like to see first?" "Everything," Zethera said. "We want to understand how this ship still works." They started in the engine room again. But this time, they looked closer, much closer. "Show me how you maintain these reactors," Zethera said. Dr. Webb opened a panel. Inside were rows of simple tools: wrenches, hammers, welding equipment. All basic, all old-fashioned. "When something breaks, we fix it," he said. "When a part wears out, we make a new one." "But where do you get the materials?" asked a hegemony scientist. Dr. Webb led them to another room. It was full of machines that looked ancient. "We recycle everything. Metal, plastic, even air and water. This machine here melts down old parts and makes new ones." The aliens stared. Their ships threw away broken parts and bought new ones from factories. The humans made their own parts from their own garbage. "What if your computers break?" Zethera asked. "We have backups," Dr. Webb said. He showed them room after room of backup systems. Electronic backups for the quantum computers, mechanical backups for the electronic systems, and in one special room, something that made the aliens gasp: books, thousands of books, all filled with numbers, charts, and instructions. "If all our computers die," Dr. Webb explained, "we can still run this ship with these books and our heads." A young Zephyrian engineer picked up one of the books. It showed how to calculate fuel use, engine power, and navigation, all by hand, with just paper and pencil. "You planned for everything to break," Zethera said slowly. "Yes," Dr. Webb nodded. "Our people learned early that space is dangerous. Things break. People die. So we built this ship expecting the worst." They spent hours exploring. Every system had 3 or 4 backup systems. Every important part could be replaced with basic tools. Every process could be done by hand if the machines failed. "Your fusion reactor," said the hegemony scientist. "It's not primitive. It's perfect." Dr. Webb smiled for the first time. "It's designed to run for 1,000 years with simple maintenance. Our ancestors weren't stupid. They were careful." As the day ended, the alien team stood in the ship's main corridor. They looked around with new eyes. This wasn't a primitive ship. This was the most advanced engineering they had ever seen. "We've been thinking about this wrong," Zethera whispered. "They didn't build a ship. They built a civilization that could survive anything." Outside, other aliens were still laughing about human technology. But the engineers knew better now. The humans hadn't just survived 700 years in space. They had thrived. Commander Zethera couldn't stop reading. She sat in her quarters with the human ship's journey logs spread across her desk. 700 years of records. 700 years of problems and solutions. The first entry was simple. Day 1. We have left Earth. The journey to the stars begins. But as she read deeper, the entries became darker. Year 45. Food shortage in Section C. Rationing continues. Year 67. Hull breach in cargo bay. Lost 12 people today. Then she found year 312. The year that should have killed them all. Solar flare detected. The log read, "All crew to radiation shelters immediately." The next entries made Zethera's crystal skin turn pale blue with shock. Day 2 after the flare. 60% of our electronics are dead. Quantum computers offline. Navigation systems destroyed. Life support running on backup power only. Any other ship would have died right there. Zethera knew this. Her own people's ships carried enough spare parts for maybe 50 repairs. After that, you were dead in space. But the humans kept writing. Day 10 after the flare. Mechanical systems working perfectly. Switching to manual navigation. Engineering teams rebuilding electronics using spare components from storage. She flipped through pages and pages of repair logs. The humans had spent 20 years rebuilding their ship while flying blind through space. They made new computer chips in their workshops. They grew replacement parts in their laboratories. They never stopped moving forward. How? She whispered to herself. The answer came in year 445. Another disaster that should have ended everything. Protein collapse confirmed. The log entry said, genetic plague has destroyed 80% of our food crops. Estimated food supplies, 6 months. Zethera held her breath. 6 months of food for 50,000 people. It was a death sentence. But again, the humans survived. Week 12 after collapse. Alga farms producing basic nutrition. Waste recycling at 99.7% efficiency. No deaths from starvation reported. The entries continued for 3 years. The humans ate algae and recycled their own waste, while their scientists worked day and night. They grew new crops from frozen seeds. They changed their own genes to digest different foods. They refused to give up. Zethera found dozens more disasters in the logs. Equipment failures that lasted decades. Disease outbreaks that killed thousands. Asteroid impacts that nearly broke the ship in half. Each time, other species would have died. Each time, the humans found a way to survive. She came to the final entry, written just days ago. Year 702. We have reached inhabited space. The journey is complete. Total crew deaths during voyage, 847 out of 50,000. The asterisk Endurance asterisk has lived up to her name. Zethera put down the logs and stared at the wall. Less than 2% casualties over 7 centuries. Her own people lost more crew members than that in a single year of normal space travel. The humans hadn't just built a ship. They had built a way of thinking that turned disasters into challenges and challenges into victories. Dr. Melthera stared at the human computer system for the 3rd day in a row. As the galaxy's top quantum physicist, she thought she understood technology. But this made no sense. The humans had 3 different types of computers working together. Quantum processors for the hard math, electronic computers for normal operations, and something she had never seen before, mechanical computers made of gears and wheels. Dr. Webb, she called out, why do you have 3 different computer systems? The old human engineer looked up from his repair work. Because they fail in different ways, he said simply. I don't understand. Dr. Webb put down his tools and walked over. Quantum computers are fast and smart, but cosmic rays can scramble them. Electronic computers are reliable, but solar flares can fry them. Mechanical computers are slow, but almost nothing can break them. So you use all 3. We use the best one for each job. But if they all break, Dr. Webb led her to a new room she hadn't seen before. The room was filled with books. Not just a few books, thousands of them. The walls were covered with shelves reaching from floor to ceiling. Every book was thick and filled with numbers and charts. What is all this? Melthera asked. The Manual Calculation Archive, Dr. Webb said proudly. Every math problem our computers can solve. These books can solve too. Navigation, engineering, physics, chemistry, it's all here. Melthera picked up a book at random. It was called Fusion Reactor Mathematics, Volume 7. She opened it and saw pages of equations and tables. Everything needed to run a fusion reactor by hand. You can run your entire ship with books. And pencils. Dr. Webb smiled. Our ancestors learned something important. Computers make us smart, but they also make us weak. What happens when the computers die? You buy new ones. Dr. Webb shook his head. What if you can't? What if you're alone in space with no help coming? What if the factories that make computers are 1,000 light years away? Melthera felt a chill run through her crystalline body. Her people's ships carried maybe a dozen backup computers. When those died, the ship died too. We don't just carry computers, Dr. Webb continued. We carry the knowledge to build new computers. We carry the knowledge to do everything the computers do. We carry the knowledge to survive. He pulled another book from the shelf. How to Build Electronics from Raw Materials, Emergency Edition. Another book, Navigation by Stars, When All Else Fails. Another, Growing Food in Space, Beginner's Guide. We didn't just build a ship, Dr. Webb said quietly. We built a civilization that could start over from nothing. Every person on this ship knows how to farm, how to build, how to repair. We are not just passengers. We are survivors. Melthera looked around the room with new eyes. This wasn't just a library. This was humanity's insurance policy against the universe itself. Admiral Crixoth of the Hegemony Fleet was not a patient being. He had 8 arms, red skin like armor, and a reputation for ending problems quickly. When he heard about the human ship, he came to inspect their weapons systems personally. Show me your defenses, he demanded when he boarded the Endurance *. Captain Vasquez looked tired, but nodded. Follow me, Admiral. They walked through corridors to a section of the ship Crixoth hadn't seen before. Heavy blast doors opened with a deep rumble. Inside was a room filled with weapons that looked ancient. These are rail guns, Captain Vasquez said, pointing to long metal tubes mounted on the walls. Magnetic accelerators that fire tungsten slugs. Crixoth laughed. Rail guns. We stopped using those 300 years ago. Our plasma cannons are much more advanced. These can hit a target at 15% light speed, Dr. Webb said quietly from behind them. The laughter stopped. Crixoth's 8 arms went very still. 15%. That's faster than our best missiles. They're also very accurate, Captain Vasquez added. After 700 years of use, they still hit exactly where we aim them. They moved to the next section. Missile tubes lined the walls like sleeping giants. Fusion warheads, Dr. Webb explained. Each one can crack an asteroid in half. How many do you have? Crixoth asked, his voice getting quieter. 2,000 missiles per tube. 50 tubes total. Crixoth did the math in his head. 100,000 fusion missiles. His flagship only carried 300. And these. He pointed to smaller weapons everywhere. Point defense systems, Captain Vasquez said. They shoot down incoming missiles and fighter ships. Would you like to see them work? Before Crixoth could answer, alarms started ringing. A practice drill. The point defense systems came alive. Hundreds of small guns emerged from hidden panels in the walls. They moved fast and smooth, tracking imaginary targets. How long have these been operational? Crixoth asked. 700 years, Dr. Webb said. They've never missed a target. Admiral Crixoth felt something he rarely experienced: fear. This wasn't a refugee ship. This was a warship. A warship that could destroy his entire fleet without breaking stride. Captain Vasquez, he said carefully, your ship seems very well armed for a civilian vessel. Captain Vasquez looked at him with calm eyes. The Endurance was built during humanity's colonial wars. Admiral, we learned that space is dangerous. Not just from asteroids and radiation, but from people who might want to hurt us. Your ship could defeat any vessel in known space, Crixoth said. Could it? Captain Vasquez asked. We hope we never have to find out. We came here looking for friends, not enemies. And if you don't find friends, Captain Vasquez touched one of the rail guns gently. Then we keep flying, Admiral. We've been taking care of ourselves for 700 years. We can do it for 700 more. Admiral Kriksoth left the weapons section with a new understanding. The humans weren't just survivors. They were warriors who had learned to hide their strength behind tired smiles and simple words. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council happened at midnight. Representatives from 50 worlds crowded into the great chamber on Kepler Station. Everyone was talking at once. Everyone was scared. Admiral Kriksoth stood at the center podium, his 8 arms shaking as he spoke. The human ship is not what we thought. It's a weapon that could destroy all of us. Impossible, shouted Ambassador Thexani. We saw their primitive technology, simple switches and old machines. Those old machines include railguns that fire at 15% light speed, Kriksoth replied, and 100,000 fusion missiles. The chamber went quiet, very quiet. Counselor Vexera of the Quantum Collective spoke first. One ship cannot threaten the entire galaxy. It's not one ship, said a new voice. Scout Captain Zixel entered the chamber, holding a data pad with shaking hands. My long-range sensors have detected something. Show them. The main screen lit up with star maps. Red dots appeared at the edges of known space. Dozens of red dots. Then hundreds. These are human ships, Zixel said. All the same design as the Endurance *, all heading toward inhabited systems. The chamber erupted in panic. Aliens jumped from their seats. Some screamed. Others fainted. How many ships? Thexani demanded. We've detected over 300 so far, Zixel said. But our scanners only reach so far. There could be thousands more. Dr. Melthera stood up slowly. I've been studying their technology. If they built one ship 700 years ago, they could have built many ships. They could have been spreading across the galaxy this whole time. What do they want? Asked a terrified Zephyrian delegate. We don't know, Admiral Kriksoth said. But Captain Vasquez told me something. She said they came looking for friends. But if they don't find friends... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Panic spread from the council chamber to the rest of the station. Within hours, every world in the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity wasn't a primitive species asking for help. They were an advanced civilization with superior technology and weapons that had been spreading through space for centuries. Fleet commanders across the galaxy ran to their war rooms. Military analysts compared human weapons to their own defenses. The numbers were terrifying. No single fleet could stop even one human ship, let alone hundreds. On trading stations, aliens packed their belongings and prepared to flee to the galaxy's edge. On military bases, soldiers loaded weapons they knew wouldn't work against human technology. Fear spread like a virus. The galaxy had laughed at human primitiveness for 3 days. Now they realized they had been mocking their future conquerors. But on the Endurance *, Captain Vasquez sat in her quarters, reading reports about the galactic panic. She shook her head sadly. They still don't understand, she said to herself. We didn't come to conquer. We came to explore. The Galactic Council called an emergency session the next day. Every seat was filled. Every delegate looked frightened. They had spent the night preparing for war against an enemy they couldn't defeat. Captain Vasquez entered the chamber alone. She walked slowly to the center podium, while hundreds of alien eyes watched her every move. She looked tired, as always, but not worried. You're scared, she said simply. I understand why. But you're scared of the wrong thing. Ambassador Thexani stood up, his silver skin pale with fear. Captain, our scouts report hundreds of your warships approaching our borders. Are you here to threaten us? Captain Vasquez shook her head. No, Ambassador. I'm here to tell you the truth. The truth we should have shared from the beginning. She activated a holographic projector. The chamber filled with images of space, stars and planets and ships. Lots of ships. Earth didn't send out one generation ship, she said. We sent out thousands. The year we left, Humanity had already been exploring space for 2 centuries. We had colonies on dozens of worlds. The aliens stared at the images. Human cities on distant planets, human ships traveling between star systems, human space stations orbiting strange suns. The asterisk Endurance asterisk isn't seeking asylum. Captain Vasquez continued. We're not refugees. We're explorers. We came to see what you had built while we were spreading across the galaxy. You've been here all along, whispered Dr. Melthera. Not here exactly, but out there. Captain Vasquez pointed to the edges of the star map. We've been building colonies, exploring new worlds, making contact with other species you've never met. We've been busy. Admiral Crixoth found his voice. Your ships, are they invasion fleets? Captain Vasquez laughed. It was the first time any alien had heard her laugh. Admiral, if we wanted to invade, would we send one old ship to announce ourselves first? Would we let you study our technology? Would we ask for permission to enter your space? The logic hit the chamber like a cold wave. The aliens looked at each other with new understanding. An invasion force doesn't knock on the door and ask to come in. Then what do you want? Vexani asked. To trade, to learn, to share knowledge. Captain Vasquez changed the holographic display. Now it showed human technology, not weapons, but tools. Medical devices, farming equipment, construction machines. We've learned a lot in 700 years. We thought you might have learned some things too. Dr. Webb entered the chamber, carrying the small device. This is a soil regenerator, he said. It can turn dead dirt into fertile farmland in 1 week. We'd like to show you how it works. And this, Captain Vasquez added, showing another device, can cure most genetic diseases. We developed it after the protein collapse of year 445. The fear in the chamber began to change into something else. Wonder. Hope. You came to help us, asked a young Zephyrian delegate. We came to meet our neighbors, Captain Vasquez replied. We've been alone for a long time. 6 months later, Kepler Station looked very different. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists in every workshop. The docking bays were full of ships from both civilizations. Trade and friendship had replaced fear. Dr. Webb stood in his new laboratory, teaching a group of young aliens how to build fusion reactors that would last for centuries. His students included Zephyrians, crystallines, and even some proud hegemony engineers. The secret isn't making it perfect, he explained, showing them a simple but strong reactor design. The secret is making it fixable. In another part of the station, Dr. Melthera was learning from human quantum physicists. They showed her how to build computers that could work for hundreds of years without replacement. We don't throw things away when they break, Captain Sarah Chen explained. She was from another human ship that had arrived 2 weeks ago. We fix them. We improve them. We keep them working. The biggest change was in the council chamber. Today, representatives from dozens of human colonies were taking their seats alongside the old galactic powers. The galaxy had grown much larger overnight. Captain Vasquez stood to address the Joint Council. After 6 months of rest and repair, she looked younger and stronger. We propose a new kind of alliance, she said, not based on who has the biggest fleet or the strongest weapons, based on who can build things that last, who can survive when everything goes wrong, who can help their neighbors do the same. Ambassador Thexani, who had once mocked human technology, now wore a simple mechanical watch made by human craftsmen. It would run for 50 years without maintenance. What do you call this alliance? He asked. The Endurance Pact, Captain Vasquez replied. We build together. We survive together. We explore the galaxy together. And we never give up on each other. The vote was unanimous. Over the following years, the galaxy changed completely. Ships were built to last centuries, not decades. Cities were designed to survive disasters. Knowledge was preserved in books and mechanical systems, not just computers. When the great solar storm hit the galaxy 50 years later, wiping out electronic systems across hundreds of worlds. Most civilizations survived. They had learned the human way of building things, with backups, with redundancy, with the assumption that everything would eventually break. The storm passed. The civilizations rebuilt, and they kept exploring. Dr. Webb, now very old, sat in his workshop on a distant human colony. A young alien student asked him about the early days. "Why did you help us?" The student asked. "You could have conquered us easily." Webb smiled and picked up an old, reliable wrench. "Because conquering is temporary," he said, "but building something that lasts, that's forever." Outside his window, ships from a dozen different species worked together, building a new space station. It was designed to last 1,000 years. The humans had taught the galaxy their greatest secret, not how to fight, but how to endure.